thought I would share something very interesting with you. I've been watching very carefully the numbers and on the tracker. So I'm going to just show you what I'm talking about. Israel is a very interesting one to watch for because they are very close to 100%. And it says there, if you read carefully, it says there at the very top, share of people fully vied against this thing that's happening in the world. 61.48%. Now, underneath that, there's a share of people only partly vied, 5.15%. Now, an all-up rounded total tally is 66.63%. What's interesting is that I personally believe that there's something very valid and remarkable and quite biblical about it when it gets to 66.66%. So we are a very small number away from this final figure. And what I mean by this is, if you go back scripturally through what happened with Solomon at the building of the temple, you get to see, this was before it was destroyed in 586 BC. This temple was set aside, as you probably know, for the building. Originally, David was going to do it. Solomon landed up, his son, being the one that actually built the temple. And Solomon, because of his request for complete and total wisdom, he was really pulling together all of the resources from in and around the neighboring countries of the Middle East, and especially Israel, to build and fashion this temple from materials that all of these countries, even surrounding Israel, were contributing to this temple. It was like an extraordinary thing that God was able to take the resources of the enemy, the resources of those countries that exalted themselves against God. He was still able to bring forth a massive number of resources, including gold and cedar trees and all kinds of other very valuable aspects that needed to be used for the building of the temple. Now, what's interesting is if you look up the scripture that relates to, and I'm gonna just show you what I mean. If you look up the scripture of gold in the book in the Bible, you look up 1 Kings 10:14. The weight of gold that Solomon received yearly was 666 talents. Each year, Solomon received about 25 tons of gold, according to the New Living Standard. I always like to go to the King James Version for lots of reasons. The King James says, now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. So it's 666. Always understand it to be written that way. But what is fascinating is how we are seeing a play out once again. You know, the human being is more valuable than gold. We are seeing a 66.63%. And in terms of the rate that's being applied, I mean, this is a country that's heading well into the 2/3 majority now being vied. And you know, we know that we know from Revelation that 1/3 of the world's population is going to be taken out. So if we do a little research here, I try not to use Google, but I'm doing it in Google this time. So we do Revelation and 1/3 of world's population wiped out. Scripture. We see what is being said here, which is 9:15, the commentary, where it says the one article and one preposition before the 4 times unites them. It denotes the appointed hour of the appointed day, of the appointed month, of the appointed year. It says here, to kill a third of mankind. A third of the population of the earth would be killed by these 4 angels in the army which they lead. Death will come by 3 means, fire, smoke, and brimstone. The trumpet judgments share a pattern of affecting 1/3 of what they target. In the first trumpet judgment, a third of the trees were burnt up. In the second trumpet judgment, a third of the sea became blood, a third of the creatures in the sea perished, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And in the third trumpet judgment, a third of the rivers and springs are poisoned. In the fourth trumpet judgment, a third of the sun, moon, and stars were struck so as to be darkened. In the fifth and sixth trumpet judgments, all men without the seal of God are tormented, and then a third of them are killed. Revelation, rightly dividing the scriptures, is predominantly for the nation of Israel. Now, a third has to exist for a third to be wiped out. This is inside of Israel, right? The 144,000 are going to come from all of the Jews worldwide. So we're there. We really are. If you are observing end times and have been for decades like I have, eschatologically, we know that we are very, very, look at the numbers. We are so there. 66.3%. This is what we're being told. This is the little Satan, as the Middle East calls Israel. The United States is have a look, the United States is a close 5th or 6th worldwide. Share of people that are fully V'd against this thing, 48.79%, plus the share of people that are only partly V'd, or 7.72%, and 56.51% being the tally. So, yeah, we're there. These are the numbers. I'm saying that we can calculate the closeness to this occurrence, the rapture, the harpazo. We're that close. We are really that close.